Steve Brown arrived in the Netherlands as a small child and grew up in Amsterdam's lively neighborhoods. He watched two worlds: the respectable life his parents hoped for and the street life that paid in cash and quick respect. That tension shaped a young man who learned to read people fast. In school, he was bright but restless. Brown had energy that didn't fit in classrooms, so he took odd jobs: cleaning, helping in cafes, learning how the city moved after dark. Those early jobs taught him that information and contacts were as valuable as money. He started doing small hustles, running errands, selling contraband records, helping behind the counter at clubs. It wasn't grand crime at first, but the money was faster than any legal route. He discovered he had a knack for organizing stuff and convincing people to trust him. In 1979, Brown founded a coffee shop organization called the Happy Family, officially set up as a foundation that provided services to marginalized youth. The operation later drew public scrutiny. Municipal reports and press articles questioned the finances and alleged that the foundation functioned as a de facto coffee shop chain with large turnover. He learned to wear two faces, one for official records and one for the back rooms. To officials, he presented charities and youth programs. To others, he managed cash flows, membership lists, and distribution networks. That ability to pass between worlds is a recurring motif in his life. Running a coffee shop chain put him where trade happens. Sailors, tourists, local dealers, and questionable suppliers passed through. Brown steadily built a network: drivers, bookkeepers, front company managers, people who could make goods and money move without asking too many questions. As his activity grew, so did the attention of local government and accountants. Inspections found strange bookkeeping and high turnover in a nonprofit. The heat on his business taught him the value of legal cover and plausible deniability. Brown later acknowledged involvement in the hashish trade through the 1970s and 1980s period. That era in Amsterdam combined booming demand, port access, and creative, and often shady, financial setups. He has described that time as chaotic, profitable, and morally complex. Steve's life has always been full of contradictions: charity versus commerce, public programs versus underground trade, family man versus street figure. Those contradictions made him interesting to journalists and frightening to rivals. Reputation in the underworld works like compound interest. Small acts ripple outward. Brown's reputation, part businessman, part tough negotiator, attracted not only customers, but also enemies. As his name circulated, people began to attach stories to it, both true and exaggerated. By the early 1990s, Brown says he began to step away from active criminal dealing and sought different paths. Whether that step was gradual or abrupt, it marked a turning point. He moved toward storytelling, media, and public life. Once you've lived a life that many people only read about, you also have material: first-hand stories, contacts, and a point of view. Brown started to tell those stories, first to small publishers and later in wider formats: books, interviews, and TV pieces. He authored and contributed to books and long-form pieces on Amsterdam's Underworld, offering an insider view that sells because it reads like an eyewitness account. Those books positioned him not only as a former actor in events, but also as an interpreter of them. Over time, Brown became known as a media figure, presenting documentaries and making media appearances where he discussed crime, history, and the sociology of the streets. He developed and presented local TV programs for Amsterdam public channels, and later hosted podcasts and produced documentaries. Shows like Amsterdam Noir and other underground programs used his voice and reputation. They were raw, anecdotal, and played to an audience hungry for unvarnished stories. Brown's persona, equal parts confessing ex-actor and proud survivor, was compelling radio. Life in and around organized crime carries a risk. Brown survived violent incidents and an assassination attempt in 1999, events that changed how he was seen by the public and by authorities. After such episodes, he claimed to reconsider his role and his choices. Fortune flowed in bursts: big weeks, big shipments, quick paydays. But the cost was constant fear, secrecy, and the erosion of personal relationships. Brown has described feeling trapped by the life he once chose. His operations attracted legal challenges and political controversy. The Happy Family scandal and related inquiries were a public spectacle, with politicians, auditors, and journalists taking various positions. Those battles made him a lightning rod in municipal politics. Shifting into media wasn't just an exit strategy, it was a reinvention. Brown learned to translate street events into narrative, turning rumor into structure, betrayal into cautionary tale, so that his past became content. Documentary makers and crime reporters found Brown valuable. He had names, dates, and a voice. Several projects, short films, documentaries, podcasts, credit him as a consultant or on-screen presenter. He's listed as an author on platforms that sell audiobooks and crime nonfiction, and his written work reaches readers who want inside stories of Amsterdam's changing underworld. These author credits helped cement a public identity as ex-gangster-turned-writer. On Amsterdam's local broadcaster Salto, Brown produced and presented Stem van de Straat, Voice of the Street, a program aimed at grassroots stories and street perspectives. It brought him into local civic discourse and expanded his audience beyond the crime scene. Steve later tried to channel his public profile into civic engagement, at one point founding a small party and contemplating local politics. It was a curious arc. The man once suspected of shady money moves now courting votes and public legitimacy. Tabloid coverage and serious investigative reporting alternated in tone, from sensational, crime drama, to analytical, policy and corruption. Brown's past made him irresistible copy. His media work made him unavoidable. To some, he's a villain. To others, a truth-teller. The Dutch public splits between fascination and condemnation. Brown's place in that divide is instructive. People love a redemption story, but they also distrust the teller. He had family and relationships strained by the choices he made. In interviews, he speaks about loyalty and loss, friends lost to prison or death, families fractured by secrecy. This personal cost is an essential element of his narrative. In the 1990s, he was a witness in public trials, and his testimony and silence at other times played roles in legal processes that fascinated Dutch journalists. Those courtroom moments moved him further from the streets and closer to the public spotlight. At various points, Brown relocated or took refuge abroad. Periods away helped him recalibrate and later re-emerge in Dutch media. Absences from the public eye fed speculation, but they also allowed him to reframe his story on his own terms. Several documentary projects used his research or on-camera presence to explore Amsterdam's violent episodes. One project, titled Killing Fields of Amsterdam among others, used Brown as presenter and guide through places most reporters never entered. In December 1999, Brown was shot and seriously wounded outside his home. He survived injuries to his stomach and liver. That attack brought public sympathy and a renewed scrutiny of the networks he had known. It also reinforced the idea that the past remains present for many involved in organized crime. He launched blogs, street newsletters, and social channels, some cheeky, some investigative. Volksnews Uit Amsterdam Noir and similar projects aim to provide street talk and counter-narratives to mainstream media. Critics accused him of profiteering off trauma. Champions praised his willingness to speak truth to power. Brown's own defense. Who better to tell the story of that era than someone who lived it? That defense has both moral and commercial weight. In interviews, Brown says he learned practical lessons. Avoid permanent enemies, protect your family, and never assume wealth brings safety. He frames those lessons as warning tales for younger readers and listeners. As a former insider, Brown's credibility is double-edged. He has access to truth, but also a motive to shape memory. Historians and journalists therefore use his testimony carefully, corroborating where possible. His local TV work and even municipal political move, the Stem van de Straat initiative, show a strand of civic engagement, a desire to turn street experience into policy pressure and to represent voices often ignored. Brown applied his organizing skills to small legitimate businesses and publishing. He used long contacts lists, show business savvy, and a knack for storytelling to keep working. No longer in secret, but in the public gaze. In interviews, he mixes regret with justification. He regrets violence and the pain caused. He also argues the social context pushed people like him into the choices they made. That ambivalence makes him a useful subject for moral debate. To older Amsterdam residents, he is a figure of the city's recent history, both a symptom of its problem and a witness to it. Newer residents know him mostly through podcasts and TV, an interesting footnote in a complex urban story. As the Dutch underworld became more international and lethal in the 2000s and 2010s, Brown's era appears almost pastoral, by comparison. He uses that contrast to argue that change is dangerous and that tech-enabled gangs have different rules. At the end, Steve Brown resists a single label. He is founder and suspect, survivor and storyteller, offender and civic actor. That tension is the human core of his public saga, a messy mix of success, shame, survival, and reinvention that makes him one of Amsterdam's most discussed characters.